I've said before that when I was a spotty teenager at college, I immersed myself into science fiction, whether it was the films that were being released in the cinema or the TV shows, 2000 AD comic, and especially science fiction paperbacks. And the two authors that I read um, endlessly and would seek them out were Harry Harrison, especially his stainless steel rat novels, and Robert A. Heinlein. And I don't know if I read this one first. I've got a feeling I read Have Spacesuit Will Travel before this one, all right? But looking at the front, it is a February 1979 version. So yeah, I would have been about 17 when I read this for the first time, and I was just captivated by it. It's a fantastic book. If you only know the films, whatever, I do urge you to seek it out. It's a terrific read. Um, I read it about once a year, but it's always a surprise to me after watching all the stuff that's been released based on it to read it. And really, there's only two action scenes. There's a battle at the beginning and a battle at the end, and the rest of the book is the story of Johnny Rico in boot camp, undergoing his training with his friends. And as I say, it's a terrific read. Um, and excuse my phone. Um, Robert had a great way of writing, and he he I guess he predicted an awful lot of things. I mean, these guys depicted here, these are the mobile infantry, and they're called mobile infantry because they are mobile by wearing power suits. The main one being the Marauder power suits. Okay, and in Robert's writing, it is amazing. I mean, this was first published in '59, but he was predicting things that we now have. While you're wearing the suit, you have a head-up display. Everything's projected on a screen in front of you. You nudge with your jaw, and your infrared snoopers will clip down over your eyes. All you have to do is make a small hand gesture, and something will happen. Um, and yeah, the technology of it is wonderful. They have wire racks on their back for firing nuclear uh, bombs either side of them as they uh, go across the terrain. They jump. It's a powered suit, so you don't walk. You leap, a bit like Superman when he first appeared. All right, and yeah, no, it's a fantastic read. As I say, I read it about once a year now. Um, and I read it just as a brilliant piece of science fiction. It's criticized now for having political undertones or bias or whatever. When I was 17 reading it, I didn't pick up on it. When I read it now, I don't pick up on it. I can see why people might think that, but um, to me, it's just a rollicking science fiction romp, all right? And I'm a massive fan of it. Um, and this is the thing: if you read a book and it's a favourite book of yours, it's a bit like me reading To Kill a Mockingbird, right? I know what Atticus Finch looks like in my head. I know what everybody in that looks like. So when you see an adaptation of it, it's not quite how you imagine it. Well, in science fiction, that's even more so because there are liberties that are taken. So in the book, the powered suits, the Marauder suits, Robert says that it's a suit, not a spacesuit, but it can be used as one. It's not a tank, but it's more powerful than a tank. And if you put a guy in a powered suit up against a tank, the tank will lose. All right. And then he does a bit of an H.G. Wells. He goes a bit vague, right, on what they actually look like. The quote from the book is, "No need to describe what it looks like since it has been pictured so often. Suited up, you look like a big steel gorilla armed with gorilla-sized weapons." All right. And so, yeah, as I say, I used to read this book over and over and over again, right? So that's the first bit out of the way. my next exposure to Starship Troopers, I think, looking back, because it's a long time ago now, is when I bought this, which again I've had since then. Robert Heinlein's Starship Troopers, Man versus Monster, Interstellar Warfare in the 22nd Century. And yeah, here is a depiction of the powered suit. I suppose you could say it's gorilla-like, I suppose. No racks to be seen. But yeah, this is my copy of the game. It's rather beat up, as you can see, and I used to play it a lot. Back then, when I was a spotty youth with no one to play games with, it helped that you can play this game solo. Um, the thing I haven't mentioned is, the foes in Starship Troopers. Now, if you've seen the film, of course, you know they're up against the bugs, and indeed in the book they are called bugs. They're described as a nightmarish version of a spider, all right? And as you say, this is the rule book. I think this is meant to be the brain bug, all right? That's the only thing I can think of. Again, Robert in the book doesn't really describe the bugs, and he certainly doesn't describe the brain bug, which is the only variation in the book. He just says it's loathsome and abhorrent to look at. So this is another thing that is brilliant in the book and in the opening chapters, when Johnny and Co are fired out of a cannon. They're fired out of. You've got a whole series of cannons pointing downwards in a starship, and they're basically loaded into the breech like a bullet, and they are fired out. And as they fall through the atmosphere, these layers peel off like the skin of an onion, and cause all sort of like interference for the for any radar that's down on the ground. Okay, and then finally, yeah, they emerge. This, I think, is meant to be a brain bug as well. All right, so this is a really good game. I don't know if it's rare now. I've never had to look for one because I've got one. But yeah, you have these scenarios, as you can see, and it introduces you to the bugs and to the skinnies. That's something, if you've only ever seen the Paul Verhoeven film, you would have never encountered the skinnies. There's two adversaries in the book. And so we go through Klendathu, which is the bug's home planet, and is the last battle, is here, right? Another powered suit depiction, right? So we just go through, right, here's the first drawing of a skinny. See, they're humanoid, but they're very skinny. All right. And then at the back, this is very curious. And I don't know the origins of this, but you've got photos, right? So this is Johnny Rico. This is his friend Carl. And this is Carmen, who is his friend from school who becomes a Starship pilot. All right. And here you've got, obviously, a maquette of a skinny. All right. And that's that. There we are. We have a skinny. And there we are. We have a rather basic, oh, excuse my phone. We have a rather basic powered suit, right? And then I'll just quickly show you what else is in here. There's data sheets. And then you get all these things. A control sheet, because you have a platoon with two sections. And you have maps. Look, I've never thrown mine away. You have to plot the tunnels, because the bugs tunnel. They don't run across the plains like they do in the films. They're burrowers. They melt their way through the rock. Okay, and so yeah, you got all that. I've got loads more. Look, I used to play it, but I've still got loads of unused ones. And then at the end, you've got the fold out board. Okay, I have to play this again. I haven't played this for such a long time. And then you've got all your card counters and everything. And this is the nearest you get to seeing what a bug looks like. all very vague. So he's vague in the book, and I guess because he's vague in the book, they go vague for the game. All right. So I think chronologically, that was my second exposure to Starship Troopers. My third, for sure, even though it's not Starship Troopers, was this strip in 2000 AD, the VCs. Um, it's got to be modelled on Starship Troopers. The way they are, the way they behave, their missions, etc., etc. It is so Starship Troopers, it's untrue. And this is, I mean, they were created by uh, Mick McMahon or Gary Leach. It's one way round or the other. But and then you've got art by Cam Kennedy as well. This is Mike McMahon, isn't it? And I do wonder these strange, lights that they've got coming out on their helmets. I do wonder if this is like a nod to the Y rack, because that's the way I always see the Y rack being. All right. So that was my next exposure. My next exposure after that is that. All right. And I can remember when it was coming out. Paul Verhoeven's going to do Starship Troopers, and it's like, oh, that's going to be interesting because I was a fan of Flesh and Blood, and a fan of RoboCop, and it's like, okay, let's see what we get. Um, I wasn't aware before I saw it that it would have the black humour of RoboCop and the ultra violence of RoboCop, which personally, I mean, I'm a fan of the book, so personally, I don't think either of them were necessary. Just make the book, but it's entertaining in its own right. But they call it Starship Troopers, and it's based on Starship Troopers, but they take so many liberties with it. It's untrue. I mean, number one for me, you don't have the powered suits. You have these suits, which I think modelled after the Colonial Marines from Aliens. But that's kind of logical. I mean, one of the inspirations for the Colonial Marines by James Cameron was reading Starship Troopers. So it's a bit of a shame you don't have the powered suits in there. Even the rifles are very pulse rifle. Okay, but the film does the reverse of the book. Whereas the book is, bookended, haha, by battles with training being the vast chunk of the novel. In the film, it's less than half an hour that they're in training, and then it's all fighting, all battles. In the training, you have got Zim, their trainer. That's good to see him from the book. I've seen since that the reason they weren't going to put the powered suits in, or they chose not to, was number one, they didn't have enough money, and number two, it was early days of CGI, and they thought the only way to do it would be to do it CGI, and they didn't think it would be up to spec, so they decided not to. The egg pods that I was telling you about, they've discarded them as well because they're not in powered suits, so you just get a very alien style dropships. The psychic powers that you get in the Starship Trooper films, that's not in the book. There are no psychic powers in the book. Johnny Rico just thinks that they have very good hearing because the only time really in the book that you ever encounter somebody who has a talent is when he's brought down. They know the bugs are somewhere in the tunnels, and he just stands there and concentrates and knows where they're going because apparently when they're making the tunnels, there's a sound of frying bacon. And Johnny just thinks, oh, they've just got really good hearing, There's no Neo dogs in the book. You've got Neo dogs, which are like these highly intelligent cybernetic dogs. No skinnies at all, of course, in this either. The other difference in this and what follows is Dizzy in the book is male, not female, and dies in the first chapter of the book. Carl isn't psychic in the book. And the thing that I miss most in the live action versions is you don't have Mr. Dubois, who was Johnny's teacher back in college. The Michael Ironside character is basically a merging of Lieutenant Razak and Dubois. All right. So that's that. That came out, and it's like it's all right. You know, technically, I enjoy it. I like the bugs. They're much bigger than they should be. They're more human sized in the novel. Um, so, but it's enjoyable for what it is. All right. Um, the next encounter I had with it is I've got to bring these in. Is this series called Roughneck's Starship Troopers Chronicles, and this was off the back of Starship Troopers. It seems quite odd that there would be it's a 12 certificate, but it it it's aimed more to a family market than a being a you know an R-rated 18. All right, um, and yeah, if you've never seen this before, I don't know. I mean, you've got quite a number of uh, collections. Each one is a campaign. All right. Um, I mean, the suits are more armored now, which is good. Although, have we got a shot? Towards the end, it's really weird. They've got all the armor, but their arms are bare, which seems a bit odd. But yeah, as I say, a number of campaigns. It's clearly follows on from the film. The characters are all still there. The bugs are exactly the same. Um, and you get plasma bugs and blah blah blah, and many new forms as the campaigns go. You get more and more um, strange ones. All right, I've been rewatching these just lately, and they can be a bit of a slog, especially this one because it's just every episode, and it's like 20 minutes per episode. Every episode is just slaughtering the bugs, who are like these mindless, roaring, running creatures. In the book, they were intelligent. They were crafty. They built spaceships. They built cities. When you go to Clendathu, which is when they go and take the war to the Bucks, they have cities. So yeah, it's enjoyable enough. I like the characters. The characters in it are engaging. The book, it's Johnny Rico telling the story all the way through, but is he here? There he is. In the in this, it's Higgins, who is a press guy who's there filming them. So it's enjoyable, but it's from like 1999, and the problem is the CGI. It's all CGI. The CGI is shockingly bad in places. Each one of these DVDs has audio commentaries, and if you listen to the animators, you find out, that they run out of money. They uh, uh, they had to keep changing animation houses, blah blah blah, and yeah, it shows. I mean, at the very best, it's like a good um, uh, storyboard, animated storyboard, but at worst, it's like a shockingly bad one, or a really bad old computer game. But the characters are good, and it is good fun. Urge you to seek them out. I think you can get these quite cheaply still. Right, so my next encounter is on the modelling side of things because back in the 90s, you had the garage kit explosion, and I know there were kits of the bugs. You had little dioramas where you had a bug about this big with a little 1/35th scale trooper. There was a couple of them. There was a whole, wasn't there? There was a whole Micro Machines range, which was very bizarre, where you could get the vehicles and the bugs and like the brain bug, etc., etc. They go for a lot of money now. But no, I'll take that back. I did do another spoofy one, but that's long gone. No, my only modelling thing up until now, I will get to the point of this whole waffle eventually. My Up until now, really, my only proper modelling um, project was to have a go at doing a powered suit. Now, some of you may recognise this. This is an SF3D or a Mac figure. And what they are, they're produced in Japan, and basically, I've spoken about these before on this channel. Um, it's a science fiction universe that's heavily uh, leans towards the design work of the Second World War. All the powered suits, the vehicles, all have a really um, World War II aesthetic to them. All right, and I made this a very, very long time ago, maybe 20 years ago. And when I saw this, it's like that's like a powered suit from Starship Troopers. And so I got it and I've converted it. And basically, well, I didn't really do much. All I've done is I've custom made the wire rack on the back. And I can't remember. I think these are off of an anime kit or a Macross kit. These were two little arms with these things to open up for firing missiles. So all I've done basically is I've just just stuck that in the top, painted it green, and this up until now is my powered suit. All right, so move that one out of the way. Getting towards the point of this video now. So next thing I watched was this, and I watched it again this morning in prep for today, and I always forget that I've watched it because it's just so unremarkable. Old Casper's back, and you got Vulcan Lady from Star Trek, and the bugs are back, and it's just dull, dull, dull. And I think the only reason I got it was because they say, "Oh, the Marauder suits are back," and this is them. This is the depiction. If you can see, maybe you can't. Yeah, the Marauder suits are finally going to be in it. And it's like, okay, I've got to get that then. They're not. They are like mecha anime mecha suits. You strap into it, and it's a giant robot with you strapped to the front. All right, bit like a power loader from Aliens. It's not a Marauder suit at all, but it's all right. If you turn your brain off, um, it's all right. And then the last one I've got is this. And again, I always forget I've got this, right? Starship Troopers Invasion. And it's again, it's the bugs. Um, but this time it's the creators are a anime team, all right? And it has got a massively anime look to it. In fact, all of it looks like if you play a video game, you have the animated sequence at the end as you move up to another level. That's exactly what it's like. It's incredibly violent. There's an awful lot of nudity and sex in it, which I wasn't expecting because there ain't much of that in the novel. Um, but you watch the extras, the making ofs, and the guys are clearly massive fans of the novel and the original film. So this one is very recommended. But yeah, don't have your children around if you're watching it. All right. So finally, at the point of this video, and blimey, and I'm 20 minutes in. So I've always wanted to make a powered suit, right? And I was looking around for a modeling project, and I realized that Wave produced a powered suit, right, from Starship Troopers. And it's been out in various guises over the years with various pieces of artwork, one of which clearly is, Starship Troopers. Um, and it's like, oh, yeah, that would be a nice project. But how much are they? Um, they're not too expensive if I was to, order from Japan and then wait ages. But there was a guy here in the UK who was selling it, and it was quite expensive. And it's like, well, I know, if you order from abroad, okay, it's cheap, but then you've got to pay, even if it's free postage, more than likely you've got to pay a customs fee, and you've got to wait weeks. And this guy was selling a model, but it was quite expensive, and it's like, why? That's a bit of a cheat. And then I realised, right, I cottoned onto it. The Mac figures, right, are always all the figures are 1/20th scale. This is 1/20th scale, all right. And I think the ones I was looking at over on uh, in Japan and America was a 1/20th version. The one I've bought isn't. It's 1/12th, which means it's much bigger, which means it will cost more. And I'm bringing it in now. And this is it. As you can see, it's a bloody huge box. So this is it. This is a 1/12 scale powered suit, phase two. I don't know what phase two means. All right. Um, but if I turn it on its side, you can see, I think this is the wire rack, which is great. These are the thrusters for jumping, which is great. Okay, so I'm looking forward to this. Finally doing an official powered suit. Let me see what's on the other side. I haven't opened it up yet. I've only looked at the photos the guy put up on Facebook, on eBay. This looks all a bit too... I might have to adapt this in some way. It looks too solid. This suit here is much better in that you have the rubber joints between the segments, but here this is all looking a bit too solid. I don't know what's going on up here. And this is weird as well, which isn't strictly accurate to the book. In the book, the helmet just comes off, but here it all hinges down. But you can clearly see the guy is wearing a powered suit, all right? It's going to be interesting to see if there's any displays and stuff to be putting in there. So I'm really looking forward to this. I'm all fired up by re-watching the TV show and the other films. So so this is where I'm ending the video today because I've waffled for nearly 30 minutes. But it was just a way of explaining my back history with Johnny Rico and the rest of his unit. So yeah, I'm ending it now, and I'll come back with another video somewhere down the line with this built and painted. So look out for that. I've got other projects that I'm working on at the moment. They'll be out before then. But I reckon, I don't know, after you've watched this, maybe end of January, middle to end of January, this should be out. All right. Okay. Well, as I do this video, it's New Year's Eve, so Happy New Year to you all. Thanks for your following, thanks for your subscribing, and thanks for any of your comments, all of your comments, I'm sorry, that you've kindly left over the year. So Happy New Year to you, and yeah, see you next year.